Remember that guy, Matt Walsh, the not funny one, the one who's on the Daily Wire, not the one who was
beard dye guy.
Yeah, not the guy who was on Veep.
I always think when I hear Matt Walsh, the guy who did America's Most Wanted, but that is not his name.
No. Well, Matt Walsh on Daily Wire, here he is arguing that not getting mad enough about the systemic killing of Black people by the police is a sign that you are a free thinker.
Listen to the language there. I would fight to the death to prove I'm not a racist. And he would. This stands in contrast to my own approach as someone who won't even fight you in a thumb war to prove I'm not a racist. I literally won't lift a finger to prove I'm not a racist. I won't do a single thing at all to prove I'm not a racist. And that's because I'm not a monkey with a tambourine marching around and making noises at your behest. I'm not a puppet dancing on your string. I'm not a dog barking on command. Whatever analogy you prefer. It's not my job to prove anything to you.
Pause it 1 second. I want you just to think about this. He is saying that he is not going to prove or to show that he's anti-racist for the sake of other people are forcing him to, right? When you're a puppet on a string, you have no agency. When you're a monkey dancing with a tambourine,
which he went with first, by the way.
Yes. When you are a monkey, you have no agency. That's the point of that. And so his argument is I'm not going to perform for you. I'm not going to pretend. He doesn't really quite realize that he's saying this, but he would have to pretend. It's not anything that would come from him. And that's his implication, is that if you're out there fighting against racism, you're doing it for other people. You're don't actually believe it. You're being forced to. So just go back and continue on with it.
I literally won't lift a finger to prove I'm not a racist. I won't do a single thing at all to prove I'm not a racist. And that's because I'm not a monkey with a tambourine marching around and making noises at your behest. I'm not a puppet dancing on your string. I'm not a dog barking on command. Whatever analogy you prefer. It's not my job to prove anything to you. And I don't care to. I'm not going to be held hostage by the bogus labels you throw at me. And considering the fact that all white people are called racist for literally everything we do and say all the time, the term has lost all meaning and power. I don't care when people try to pin it on me. It doesn't mean anything. It has no impact. And this is how you really neutralize the labeling tactic. If somebody says, you're racist, and you break down in tears like Dax here, begging them, screaming, no, I'm not. I swear I'm not. Please believe me, I'm not. They already win. And you already lose. The whole point of them calling you that was to get exactly that reaction, which is why it frustrates them so much when they say, you're racist. And you respond with a yawn and say, oh, you think so? Okay. Well, you're not going to deny it? They don't know what to do with that. You're not following the script, and you shouldn't.
Who's they? And also, it doesn't help when doesn't help to say you're not a monkey with an instrument when you have a banjo in the background. Because all I could think was you could be a monkey with a banjo if you chose.
His whole career is literally functioning as a monkey with a tambourine. That's what you're doing, right? You're on YouTube or whatever it is every day, trying to make an argument and have people believe you. If that's his definition, that's his whole career. It's just that he doesn't want, I'm not going to make an effort to show people that I'm not racist. I don't care if they consider me racist. He doesn't say because they're wrong.
The thing about that logic, which is always, I guess you can sort of the umbrella term of virtue signaling, which was popular years ago, I guess now, is that it kind of implies that, people are forcing him to do this, forcing him to say that he's not racist everywhere he goes. Now, I've never experienced that, let's say because I'm Black, who knows? But I would just call some of that like, fake. That's not happening to him, but also like social norms. Like, yeah, there are social norms as things change. People expect different things from you. It is what it is. But so I don't believe in virtual signaling to that extent. But if you do believe in that, then who is this video for? Is this video just not another form of that kind of virtue signaling? Is this just not signaling that you're not racist? Like, I don't believe that like that's
I'm a tough guy.
like, I mean, because it implies that like everything that we do is to signal some kind of virtue in some sense. So this is in his mind, like he's signaling that he's a free thinker. He's a free thinking individual because he's resisting this kind of external force of like anti-racist propaganda or, anti-racist fascism, like if you want to use their kind of words. But, it, as somebody on the outside, it's like, I can kind of interpret that as you're trying to signal something to somebody else that is really not quite that.
Well, at the end, it's go on, Sam.
Well, he's signaling that racism isn't real.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying that it's the only that accusations of being racist or proclamations of being anti-racist are all just performative because there's no way it could be an actually sincerely held belief because there's not racism out there. That racism for him is just something that's deployed in some type of argument.
I guess to that point, it's funny because he doesn't, but like, because what's really performative is just like anti-racism because it's quite convoluted. Because racists are like racists, but he's developed this, intermediate step where he has to, establish his free thought, from somebody, I guess, or to his audience of this next step post anti-racism or whatever it is that he's, defining this as. Whereas, for most people, I think it's not quite that complex.
Right.
Well, the where he ended up was just about owning the libs, like making them feel uncomfortable. They're not going to know what to do with this. Could you imagine if on the left, our commentary was all centered around how can we make conservatives feel like shit, right? That's so much of their ideology is just owning the left as if we care.
But the funny thing about that is, and I guess, not maybe this is the point on their end, either, explicitly or implicitly to like carve out this population of people who like are incapable of existing in like the real world, is that most people aren't that complicated thinking about it. If most people say, oh, racism makes them feel bad because they were raised under some sort of like wishy-washy, like Family Matters type popular culture. And so, I think it's interesting that these people condition their audiences to freak out at the most minor changes in society, the most minor interpersonal, most minor interpersonal events that most people would just be like, annoyed by, like, oh, I have to go to, EEO training at my job, or I have to go to anti-harassment training at my job. So, just I'm going to eat the free food and like look at my phone and answer all the questions properly because like, yeah, I get it. But like for people like who watch this show and believe this hype, which for him is all performative, it just makes them incapable of existing in these kinds of, normal interactions. Like, yeah, like they're boring sometimes, like jury duty is boring, but that's society now. And you just end up with people who are incapable of like having like a anti-racist coordinator come in at their job without having like a meltdown. And then it's suddenly like the left's fault. And it's suddenly like, because, cancel culture is carving out a space in corporate America. It's like, well, yeah, sometimes you got to do stuff you don't like to do. Like some things are boring, Right. Can you imagine? It's just like, but you probably, I don't think it does anybody a service to condition them to freak out at that.
To be fair, though, some of those, Robin DiAngelo seminars are pretty dumb. But
yeah, I mean, some of them are dumb.
There's all sorts of dumb crap you have to do all the time, and it's just like this stuff is just sort of like specifically singled out as the most oppressive.
Yeah, but there's just a weird cottage industry with that author of White Fragility where it's like corporate America's like, let's contract her out and other people like her and this is solved. But
no, definitely. I think there is a middle ground between like criticism of the corporatization and liberalization of social justice and like what I guess the far right does, which is condition their like, their base to just be incapable of dealing with it in like a critical manner. It just becomes like, okay, well, we have a person coming in on my job and I'm just going to do like the trolley just ask questions bit and until I lose my job. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to fire you, but like, don't listen to like people who write about cancel culture about how to act on your job.
Right. One thing that strikes me is, obviously there's a lot going on with the Chauvin trial and with the protest in Minneapolis. So this may be a little bit of a coincidence where, Matt Walsh is out there saying, I'm not going to lift a finger to, and really undercutting the whole concept of like anti-racism is just some type of like fake thing that is performative because, presumably because what are you anti to? He doesn't believe it exists.